Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NFL Quick Talk Podcast. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, and in today's video, I will be discussing the Philadelphia Eagles and why I think that they have had the best offseason so far. Offseason meaning a combination of both free agency and draft. So let's get right into it. So let's get into the free agency period here. Their number one signing obviously was running back Saquon Barkley. Now I'm going to take it back to the playoff game last year when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and really the tail end of the regular season as well when they had their collapse. They relied on the Jalen Hurts magic, the Jalen Hurts star power to just carry them through, to just make stuff happen, and it wasn't working. So this signing, if more than he's a very good player, this signing clearly indicates to me the change in philosophy from hero ball, the Josh Allen type of play, just make ridiculous plays happen and good things will happen with your star quarterback, to, building around your star QB, not making, limiting him and limiting his mistakes along with that, kind of like a style like the 49ers do. Surround your quarterback with as many playmakers as possible to help him. The 49ers have one of the best running backs, if not the best one, in Christian McCaffrey. Couple studs at wide receiver, a couple studs on the offensive line. And I think this is where the Eagles are going with this to help Jalen Hurts. I think their theme this free agency was to help Jalen Hurts in that, in really signing Saquon Barkley here. Oh, and by the way, he's an all-pro running back, in my opinion, a top 3 running back in the league. So, that's a great addition as well to what I've been talking about. Next, we go to defensive end Brandon Huff that they acquired. I personally wasn't a big fan of this whole ordeal here because they got rid of Hassan Reddick to really make room for Brandon Huff. And Hassan Reddick is just an elite pass rusher. He really is. And yes, he's getting older. He's 31 years old. And but personally, I wasn't a big fan of this myself. But I see the reasoning behind it because what this did was it brought the average player in Brandon Huff, who I think he might be above average in some people's minds, with a lower salary than the star player who had the humongous salary, effectively cutting salary cap so that they could get players like Saquon Barkley, players like Devin White and CJ Gardner Johnson, who we'll talk about here in a second. So in that sense, I was a fan of this. If you're going to downgrade a position at edge so that you can go get your Saquon Barkley, if that was the reason, then I'm for that. All right, moving over to said linebacker Devin White. I asked the question, who doesn't want a young, fast linebacker with upside and talent? Really, the only reason why people hesitate with him is that he has a little bit of an injury history, to be honest with you. And that turns off some people. But to be honest with you, I don't care about injuries. If he is fully healthy now, then I don't care about previous injuries. Yes, he might be prone to having more injuries, but to be honest, you're getting a really solid linebacker in Devin White with, again, what I said. He's a young, fast linebacker with upside and talent. And the key there is that he's young. He can still learn, and he can flourish with that talent. So I do really like this move, and I thought it was a very underrated move that the Eagles made. Now, the last player we will discuss that came out of the free agency period before I move on to the draft is the corner safety combo. Really, he can play both in CJ Gardner Johnson out of Florida. The secondary was one, if not the main problems with the Eagles' collapse last year at the end of the season. And everyone can attest to this. They got beat on the outside so many times. If you think back to the Bucks game where the Bucks receivers just went off, and Baker Mayfield does have a big arm, so he can throw that sucker down the field. So naturally, when you have corners getting beat and safeties getting beat to the spot, yeah, that route was destined to happen. Be that as it may, they started to fix this main weakness of the Eagles. The Eagles did with CJ Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson, he's a solid safety. No, he isn't the best safety in the league. He's probably not top 5, top 7. But, he's between probably 15 and 10 in my opinion. But, he is above average. And that is what they needed to start to acquire before, and this is a nice segue into the draft, before their draft. So let's get into this draft here. Really quick, if you've been liking the video so far and you're an Eagles fan or an NFL fan in general and you like what I've been saying, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the podcast. It's the most efficient way and the best way to support the podcast, and comment your thoughts down below. And moving to the draft here, the Eagles took Quinton Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, with their first round selection. I don't think anyone thought that Q Mitchell would still be on the board. I had him as a top 15 player, and if you haven't watched my full draft class breakdowns, go watch that right now. I think it was the last video I did. But be that as it may, excuse me, I think that this was a steal. This was one of the biggest steals in the draft by far. And because Quinton Mitchell, he's just so fast. He ran a 4.3 at the 40. He is an insane athlete. He is. He really is. I think he did close to 20 reps on the bench press of 225. I mean, the dude is a athletic freak, and you watch his tape. He's a ball hawk. He can hang with any receiver, really. And his only knock was that he came from Toledo, where there weren't that many good receivers. But I really have the confidence that he can do that. And then in the second round, you double dip and you get Cooper DeJean to pair alongside CJ Gardner Johnson at the safety role. Now, he's going to be a safety or a corner, but most likely I think he'll play safety. And this dude is, coming from Iowa, which has a reputation of being very hard-nosed, very disciplined under Coach Kirk Ferentz. I think that he will fit right in with the Eagles' culture. And then we go back to the theme of helping out Jalen Hurts when you get guys like running back Will Shipley out of Clemson, who I think was criminally underrated, criminally, and guys like receiver Aeneas Smith from Texas A&M, who was a stud, and Johnny Wilson out of Florida State in the 6th round. That guy's a stud, 6'7" receiver out of Florida State. Really just isn't very fast, and that was his only knock, and that is something you can build up. So overall, I think the Eagles draft was one of the best, if not the best, in this whole class. I think I had the Steelers ranked ahead of them, but again, that's splitting hairs. Like, they both had a phenomenal draft, so don't be knocking me in the comments that I didn't have them number one, because it's splitting a tiny hair. It really is. So that's all I have for today. In short and in closing, the Eagles have had the best offseason so far if you marry both the free agency period and the draft together. So I'll see y'all in the next one. Subscribe, and I'm out.